Okay, good morning, people. This is different from a lot of the other stuff I've done. This obsession has nothing to do with me. It's more with my dad. My dad was into fire trucks and trains, and ever since he was 6 years old, and he passed away recently, and so I've been going through his stuff, and one of the things I want to work on is this. And we're going to find out exactly what this is, because it's not exactly what you think, and it's not exactly what I think. What it looks like is a Lionel Prewar Hudson, and it is pre-war. It is Lionel. However, it's very likely not the pre-war Hudson. Okay. Oh, and it's also 39 degrees in my shed right now. I've got a heater going in the background, and what we got here, this is something I had made for my dad. He had one before, but it was starting to fall apart, and it was just deteriorating. And my dad was a authorized repair technician for MTH trains, and so when we moved him back to where I live from Seattle, he was going to work on trains, and he did for a short time, but then he couldn't do it anymore. And I had made him the little support for working on locomotives. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this closely. We're going to zoom in, and we're going to look at why this may not be what it appears to be. So let's see here. All right. There were two models of the pre-war Hudson. There was the 700E, and there was a 763, I think it was, or 736. I forget now. And this one, all over the chassis, the part down here, it's plastered 700E, specifically 700E-2. There is no serial number underneath here where there should be, but that's not unusual. Only early ones had a serial number. I think after 38 they didn't have a serial number. Now, my dad said he had modified this, but he never told me how. He never really told me where he got it from. He said it was one of his favorite pieces and one of his pride and joy, but yet he never displayed it, never did much with it at all. It just sat in a box, wrapped in newspapers from 1987. So we're going to run over some of the things that make it look like a 700E, but are not, possibly not a real 700E. So the first things are, there's a lot of pipe work in here, and at first glance it looks like it's correct, but there's some discrepancies and there's some clues in the quality of what you see as to not being the real thing. Let's start with this connection here. This is too long, and there's no hole in here for it to go to, and so this isn't correct. This rod, or this line here, isn't connected to anything other than in this area here, and it's not supported, and it's just kind of sitting here. I'm not sure if this was actually even on the original 700E. My dad said he had made it look more correct. Something he was known to do. This line, while it's on the original, is not bent like this. Knowing my dad, this is probably bent more correctly, but I'm not sure. I couldn't find any pictures of a real Hudson that were conclusive or even the same. So let's see here. This line here is soldered, and there's no, there was a detail on here similar to these, and that's not visible here. And then this is just sort of stuck to this. This right here should be down here, at least on a real one. And this is in the wrong location. I think there's also supposed to be another line that comes around on the back side of the bell, which isn't here. Some other things that are wrong is that the number on the front is too far forward, and the jewels on here may not be correct. The scale coupler is missing, and there's possibly a missing rod here, and I'm not sure, there may be something missing here. So we're going to turn it over. Also, this won't stay shut. So once again, missing rod here. This bend is not correct. This is too far forward. It should be straight up and down, not at a curve. These lines are possibly not correct, and this line here doesn't seem to exist on the original. This also is not straight, and both of these are too thick. Let's see here. Another thing is, I'm not sure if these are correct. They may be. The fit and finish of these lines is pretty bad. Of course, being stored in a box for 30 years at least, and being manhandled and moved around. I haven't had a chance to check out these lines, but just judging by how they are just sitting here, they're probably not correct either. So what am I going to do with this? Well, we're going to take it apart, or try to, and see if it works. Okay, so we've got it upside down in here, and I'm going to go against everything some people have told me, and we're going to test it. It probably hasn't been run in a very long time, and so these I was told these were run on AC electricity, but that they have universal motors in them and they will run on DC also. And since I have a DC supply here, we're gonna I'm gonna set this at about 5 volts, 2 amps, and we're gonna give it some power and see what happens. Yeah, so I had a feeling that this would probably run. Knowing my dad, he very likely completely greased or oiled it before he put it away. And so we're going to give it a little more voltage. We're going to go to 10 volts. And right now she's drawing 1.2 amps. It's going along pretty good. So she runs. She doesn't growl, which is good, because that might mean there was a problem with the motor. So, I've never seen one of these. I did ask my dad to, since he was an MTH technician, I asked him to show me how to work on their trains, and he was really reluctant to, and I don't know if it was because he thought I really don't know why. The most likely reason is that he since he was losing his memory, he did not, he couldn't really remember, and he would have been bad at trying to explain it to me. So let's get this off. Oh, you know what? There's something I need to do. Before we start on with this, I forgot to, in case I need it, I forgot to turn on my ultrasonic cleaner. Cleaning some of these parts if they need it. Alright, let's see here. Had to get it to start the heater. And for those of you who might be having a fit right now, if you think I'm going to put the entire locomotive in there, I am not. I'm only going to put certain parts in, and certainly won't put the main part of the locomotive. So, what do we got here? I don't know if you can see it. Right in here. Oops, there's a spring there. The little retainer. But if you look right here, it says 700E-2. Let's see, did that show up? Yeah, okay. I'm not sure if there were supposed to be springs on this stuff. I have a feeling there were. I'm going to have to do some research. It seems like there's some stuff missing. There's some springs underneath here. this is one of the things of this whole, let's zoom out a little bit. I don't know if this is a detail that's supposed to be there. There's a hole drilled here. So let's see what's under here. Let's see this. Get a little more light on everything. So this is actually kind of dirty. Not surprising. And right away I can see that stuff that's probably not original. There's glue or something right here. Someone's been in here before. These screws are a little chewed up. Excellent. Looks like that's holding the back end on. Screw on the front end of this. That holds the cow catcher on. It's very loose. Oh, and this, yeah, I think I mentioned the scale coupler was missing. Trying to see how this is held on here. There aren't any more screws in it. It just seems to be held in by these stairs. Yeah, the stairs are coming out. There goes one. Ladder, stairs, whatever they are. Something is still holding this in here. Ah. Okay. There's a light bulb missing. I'm going to guess that it's probably a 22 or something gold light bulb. So a little history on my dad, if anyone's still watching. He was born in East St. Louis, Illinois, and at the age of 6 he big time got into trains. But that's when he started getting into trains. Oh yeah, I can already tell that all the stuff on the trim, all those pipes and everything, they're not original. If you look in there, you can see copper tubing or copper wire. Whoops, where are we? Bent over in several places. So he drilled holes in the side and ran copper wire in there and then bent it over. So we're still trying to figure out what's holding this in. Huh. So there's no smoke unit in this, obviously, because if there was, there it goes. There we go. Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much of this was my dad, and I've never seen one of these factory. So we'll set this aside right now. And we'll see if we can see inside of this. So I'm going to zoom in and bring over a light. The harsh light of truth. Oh, see, first off, these two blocks are in different locations. Oh, start over. Okay. These two blocks are in different locations on each side. There's a little lever on them. I don't know if these are original. And you can see how this tube is. It's just heavy duty wire. It's kind of hard to see in there, but you can see all the places where he drilled holes and put nuts and folded over wires. I'm really tempted to strip all that out, especially if I find out it wasn't real or wasn't original. So this thing it's dirty and it's been repainted. And I have a feeling he probably may have changed out the wires on this, on the sides, but alright, so that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Put that over here and zoom out again, and let's check out the chassis, the engine, the whatever you want to call it. Don't need this. So what do we got in here? Well, first thing is we got a couple of wires that don't go to anything. Not sure what those are. We have some kind of solenoid, it looks here, but the wires are cut or broken. One goes to ground and one goes to nowhere. And we have where the light goes. The screw isn't very tight, so it's kind of free floating. And we have some electrical tape in a couple of places. And of course we have a weight here. So this thing's very dirty. And I'm going to have to do some testing to find out if this light works, what this solenoid does, if it does anything. Or if it's a relay. I see a couple of contacts in there. But yeah, filthy dirty. I believe this is a reversing lever for AC. You have to use a lever to reverse it. The motor turns smoothly. I mean, considering how old it is. So I'm going to do some poking around in this thing off camera, and then come back and explain what I found, because I don't know how long that'll take, and most YouTube videos are pretty boring in some places anyways. Okay, so we'll go over real quick what I've found so far. Well, number one, just by barely touching this wire here, the solder broke. I'm still not sure if this is a reversing lever or what, but to get power to this, I either have to put it on that center rail thing, or if I engage this, I can apply power here. And if we take a reading from the light bulb carefully, I'm only putting 5 volts in, so the light bulb would work if it had power, if it had one in it. I'm really thinking that I need to replace the wires in here. It's very likely my dad replaced some of them. It's all single strand wire. Well, maybe it's not. I don't know. It's all cloth covered wire. I'm debating. See, once again, here's a wire that goes nowhere. Don't know why that's in there. Very thin wire, considering the amperage that this thing can draw. It's drawing 2 amps, just going around 1 amp at 5 volts. It definitely needs a cleaning. It needs a thorough cleaning. Some lube. And like I said, the wire that I was worried about that broke, doesn't even go anywhere. I wonder if that is to this relay, and that could be the reverse relay, and could be why it's not working. I'm going to have to do some research on this. Some more history on my dad is, he started doing this started into trains when he was 6 years old in East St. Louis. The place where he lived was very close to where the Peabody had a yard, and so as a result of that, his favorite line of all times is the Peabody. I've got pictures that he drew when he was like 10 or 12 years old. His father died when his father died, he was I think about 49 years old. He died of a heart attack. I have the autopsy report, and basically it said he had arterial sclerosis. His father worked in a zinc foundry, but he was the maintenance guy. His mother, I'm never really sure exactly what his mother did. I think at one point he mentioned that she may have been worked in a laundry, but I'm not really sure. Over the years, he never really said, so I don't know. after his father died, he moved to where we live now, and he was about, I think, 12 years old at the time, and he lived here until 1985 when he moved up to Seattle. Moved back a couple of years later for about a few months, and then moved back again to Seattle, probably in about 87, which is when this was wrapped up. Lived there up until 2012 when we moved him back to here. He was getting older. He was 71 or 2, 71, and he was having the first signs of vascular dementia and possibly Alzheimer's, and we moved him back, and he was doing good for a while. Started repairing trains again, and then he had an episode, and from that point on he just slowly deteriorated to the point where he had to be in memory care and then into assisted living and full-blown nursing home, and then he passed away. About 2 years before he went into about a year before he went into memory care, he had forgotten how to use his MTH controller or run his trains, and so he could no longer run trains on the layout in his apartment. And his legacy was that I was left with a giant horde of trains, but I won't go into that at this point. I'm going to think about this, what I'm going to do with this and how I'm going to work on it. Definitely have to clean up some of the wiring and figure out how it's supposed to be wired. Because I'm probably going to correct the wiring and make it, if this is any good. And I have a feeling with that broken wire, it probably is not. But we'll find out. I mean, it looks like someone tried to fix it once before, but I don't know. So, until then, real quick, just messing around with this, and it appears that this works. I got about 11 volts going in here. It's drawing 400 milliamps, and you can hear it click. So I need to get a hold of a schematic and see about how to wire this thing correctly. I'm going to see if I can get this working properly. And I very likely, even though there's probably someone screaming at me right now, I'm going to rewire this, simply because it'll make it easier to figure out. And it's already, depending on how you look at it, and if somebody complains about what I'm going to say right now, too bad. It's already effectively ruined. It's neither a 700 nor is it a 763 or 736 or whatever. It's my own dad's creation, and as such, it probably wouldn't have much in the way of resale value, except for someone possibly wanting the motor and whatever assembly for parts to fix one that they have. So what I think I'm going to do is I'll see if we can take apart some of this stuff and get it cleaned. Alright, so I've been doing a little more fiddle farting around with it and got it apart, and this is an interesting little solenoid relay. It's kind of hard to show you. I'll try and zoom in, but it's gravity assisted. There's no spring in it, so for it to work right, it's hard to show you. But if I hit this, it pulls up this, which grabs a hold of a little kind of like a escapement, and then it drops back down again, and you hit it again, and it pulls up and it moves this little escapement again, and it'll just repeat that. And there are little contacts on here that alternate from one side to the other, and then they hit some little contacts in here. And my guess is what that does is it alternates between forward and reverse. So I've got to see what I can do to, I mean, it works. I'm sure it needs to be cleaned and wired correctly, but it works. So what else have we done here? Well, we got these off, and I'm going to clean them. They're just absolutely grimy. And the same with this. Once again, oops, sorry. I guess I need to zoom out. So these are absolutely grimy. Oh, there's a screw. So I'm going to be sticking a bunch of stuff into the parts washer, and I'm going to clean off all this crud and crap, and eventually we'll try and figure out how to put this back together again. Took some pictures, but I don't know. Some of these connections were really stiff. This one on the one side was especially stiff, and so that might help everything move a little easier. So I'm going to probably have to get the wheels off and throw those in there to get them clean. Not really sure how to do that. Looks like I got to use a wrench, and then I'm guessing these are probably press fit on there, and if that's the case I may not be able to get them off, and I'll have to clean them on here. But we'll see what we can do. I'm gonna clean this up as much as I can. Further taking it apart, it's good to see the worm gear is packed with looks like lithium grease. At least over time that usually doesn't harden up too much. Oop. The heck does that go to? Okay. Whatever. So this will need to be cleaned up too. And I'm just taking the whole damn thing apart. Why not? It's not a very complicated mechanism. And I'm going to go online and see if I can find wiring diagrams and whatever for it. I would hope that something as popular as this would have wiring diagrams available from someone. And she's coming more and more apart. Okay, what a giant pain in the ass that was. The issue is that these, I don't have the nomenclature, crossbars, whatever the hell these things are called. Somebody, when they put them on, the bolts that go into these little, zoom in here, the bolts that go into these, they have a 1/4 inch head on them, and they're very shallow, and then they go into these little sockets, whatever you want to call them. Somebody tightened them a lot, and these are just basically press fit in here. They're swaged in or press fit or something, but when I tried to untighten them or loosen them, they were really stuck tight, and so they were just spinning. And what I had to do was take one of these small screwdrivers, and I had to put them in the back side of this and seriously hold them in place while I broke the threads. And once I did that, they came off really easily. So when I put these back on, I got to figure out some way to keep those from moving. I don't know if they can be soldered or peened over, or if I just, don't over tighten them and then put some Loctite in the threads. I don't really see any way of getting this thing apart any further without a bearing puller. So what I'm probably going to do is, at least for now, to clean it up a little bit, I'm going to clean out as much of this lithium grease as I can, and then everything's going to go into the ultrasonic parts cleaner. And if anybody's out there screaming at me not to do that, oh well, too bad. It's fine. So, okay. So I have run most everything you see in front of you, except the motor, and this has all been run through the ultrasonic cleaner, including this, and when I put it back together, I oiled it. I have a feeling it was not meant to be filled with grease, that it was of course meant to be filled with oil, and so I put some zoom spout oil in there. Should work fine. So some things I found in cleaning this, you can see where there was some epoxy from something, possibly the missing coupler, since there's no screw in the hole or whatever. This part looks like it's made out of copper and painted over or something like that. I don't know, maybe it's a big chunk of brass, or I don't know. It's heavy, doesn't really feel heavy enough to be copper, but that's what's underneath the paint. These came relatively clean. These cleaned up. You can see that this was painted. This probably is not original. The metal just seems too shiny. What else did I find? You know, my dad was an interesting person. He had this weird paradox or a dichotomy going where he had this incredible eye for detail, but yet when he would actually work on things, it would end up, he didn't do a very good job of it. One of the things that I found when going through his storage unit was the large number of half-completed kits and things he was starting to build at various times. And before anyone jumps all over me that I'm criticizing him, I'm mostly making observations. I mean, I see what I see and I report it. Oh, I have found a wiring diagram for this engine. I'm going to try and get the E unit working correctly and put it back in. I don't know if he took it out or maybe someone else took it out. I know a lot of people have taken them and, you know, removed the E unit from the circuit. I'm going to try and put it back in. I'm going to rewire it. I'm going to put on all new wiring. If this wire was original, some of it is supposed to be yellow, and I don't see anything that even looks yellow. I mean, these wires might be, but they're so filthy it's hard to tell. And the wiring diagram came from a guy named Dave Farquhar? I don't know. But that'll be on another video. This video it was just taking apart and cleaning this stuff. The next video probably will end up, I will be painting these parts flat black, because as you can see, the ultrasonic cleaner took everything off. I'm going to have a heck of a time getting this apart and figuring out how it works. But we'll get that looked at. And this will need to be cleaned. I'm not going to put it in the ultrasonic cleaner for several reasons, number one of which is it won't fit. And we're just going to clean it up, and then I'll spray the inside with maybe a light coating of oil or something. I don't know. It's painted inside, and for the most part looks like it's free of corrosion, which is surprising considering it sat for 25 years in Seattle or thereabouts. I guess I'm going to need to do some more research on how these things go together and what parts go where. I almost have a feeling that this is something that he rescued and then rebuilt. I don't know. So that's it for this one, and then we'll put up another video sometime. Later.